Welcome back to the show. It's Monday, July 22nd. Let's get ready for the week ahead. We are living through history that will be in the books forever. June 27th was the inflection point. Democrat insiders knew Biden's brain and body were failing. They had to find out what Biden could do in real time, hence the unprecedented debate scheduling. June 27th. The whole Democrat establishment tried to hide Biden's decline as long as they could, lying to the American people and each other for more than 4 years. Think of the 2020 basement campaign. How many donors might be pissed off about that? Those who didn't drink the Kool-Aid, the ideological right, knew all along. You just had to watch and listen. Mail-in ballots, harvesting ballots, counting ballots can only make up for 3 or 4 points in the polls. 5 points or more can't be overcome. The assassination attempt on Trump on July 13th pushed polls against Biden in an insurmountable way. Unfortunately for him, and it's sad, if it was my relative, I feel, of course, we feel for anyone in this case, it's no fault of his own per se, but his body and his brain is degenerating much more quickly than expected in ways that other 81-year-olds don't experience. Horrible, but a reality. So now what? Well, if we believe in democracy and how important it is, the Democrats must have an open primary in some form. A stunted one, to be sure. That can start today, or it can start on August 19th at the convention. The powers that be are already doing all they can to indirectly dissuade any other Democrats from declaring their candidacy by backing Kamala Harris as quickly and emphatically as possible. Though not all powers that be. For instance, so far, former President Obama has not endorsed Harris as the candidate. Democracy. It gets put on the back burner when power and control are at stake. I think others will declare their candidacy. The votes will be cast at the convention. There will be more than one round of voting. Remember, the delegates are already selected, right? At the very local level, the delegates are selected at the very local level, early on in the political process. They already have their tickets for the convention. They already have their hotel reservations, their travel arrangements. Now, it's not going to be as easy as it's being described. There are legal challenges that are going to have to be overcome. For instance, in Wisconsin and Nevada, those ballots are printed. They can't be changed legally. And so there's going to be some legal issues to sort out here that may or may not go in the Democrats' favor. For instance, if Wisconsin and Nevada don't change their laws, Donald Trump wins Wisconsin and Nevada. Kamala Harris or whoever might be the nominee will not be on the ballot. Like President Biden, Kamala Harris hasn't done well in public. Like Biden, every public enunciation she makes will be parsed very carefully. There should be no impact on markets or Fed actions from this historic development. Biden, Harris, Trump, whoever might come forward. No one's talking about cutting spending, balancing the budget, reducing debt. Only Trump is talking about shutting down the border, which will definitely have impacts on nominal GDP. But both Biden and Harris are talking about any Trump tax cuts that he put in place in his first term for all Americans, by the way. And so that could hit markets if Dem candidates keep pushing that line. All right, history in the making there for sure. And I mentioned GDP. Let me just mention this again when it comes to immigration. Democrats say that immigration is good for the economy, and it definitely boosts nominal GDP, current output at current prices. Because again, they have to eat and clothe themselves and house themselves, right? And that money's coming from the taxpayer, of course, but still it's money that's ending up in the economy. Then we have real GDP, current output at some past date prices. And real GDP will fall because this increase in nominal GDP as a result of government spending supporting these tens of millions of illegal immigrants will boost inflation. Then lastly, we have the best indicator, per capita real GDP, and that will also fall. Not only do we have the impact of inflation on real GDP per capita, as the population rises, per capita GDP is going to fall. Let's keep that in mind. Anyway, let's move on. Let me take just a moment to comment on the Trump assassination attempt. I haven't said anything since the 14th of July, and there's plenty of news coverage and much better reporting going on there. But clearly, the Secret Service failed completely in protecting the former president and the GOP 2024 presidential candidate. They failed in every way. Thank God an attempt wasn't made sooner. Thank God an attempt wasn't made by a more professional shooter or team or country. The shooter was identified long before a president got on the stage to speak. The guy basically made himself at home on the grounds for hours. He had a bicycle there. He had a rangefinder. He was walking around scouting out the grounds. The news coverage on most media platforms has been pretty good, so no need for me to go over the horrific details of their failing. But it was bad. They let a known shooter take a shot at the president before shooting the shooter. I do want to note, as many have, the hysterical, incredible, inexcusable excuse the director of Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, cited for why there were no Secret Service on the roof of the building from which the shooter shot at the president. I'm sure you've heard this. She was concerned for their safety because of a sloped roof. Come on now. Are you kidding me? And yet in those same pictures from that horrible day on those same grounds, we've all seen the police snipers on the sloped roof behind Trump. You can't make this stuff up. Secretary Mayorkas, the head of the Department of Homeland Security that managed the Secret Service, is already giving Congress a hard time in concluding their oversight role in their investigation to the shooting of Trump. Moreover, Cheadle's job doesn't seem to be in any jeopardy. How can that be? The shooter got off multiple shots and hit the former president. You're fired, can be the only conclusion. A rational observer can conclude one of two things: complete and utter incompetence on the part of the Secret Service, requiring an overhaul of the whole agency, or willful neglect. That's it. Scary stuff. Again, there's deep concern about the quality of the investigation, given the control of the investigators being part of the Democrat Party. But let's hope we get this done thoroughly and properly and find out how exactly they messed this up so badly. All right, that's enough of that stuff. Let's check in on the week ahead. Economic data from last week was mostly better than expected compared to the prior period. New York Empire State Manufacturing Index was worse than expected, as was initial unemployment claims for the week ending July 13th. Otherwise, not bad. Retail sales, housing, manufacturing all indicated continued low growth. Nothing from last week changed the Fed outlook. They're on hold for sure in July, with some increasing chance of a rate cut in September, though inflation remains a serious problem. And again, if I'm at the Fed, if I'm at that conference table, I'm saying do not cut rates. Leave interest on reserves where it is. Let's get this inflation back down to the 2% level minimum. All right, let's check in on this week. There's no data today, Monday. Tuesday, we get more housing data with existing home sales for June. Wednesday, as always, MBA mortgage applications, so another insight into the housing market. We get another look at our ever-worsening trade balance with the release of the June goods trade balance on Wednesday. Look for something with a 9 handle. And we get some more housing data as well with new home sales. Thursday, we get our first look at Q2 GDP with the expectations of another below 2% number. I think median consensus estimates are 1.9. We get a labor market check with initial unemployment claims for the week ending July 20th, as always. Really spiked higher last week, 243,000 for initial claims last week, well above the recent average. And we get another check on the manufacturing sector with the release of the June durable goods orders. Friday, we get income and consumption data with personal income and personal consumption expenditures for June, and a check on consumer sentiment with the release of the July Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. We only have one Fed official speaking this week, but as always, keep an eye on Fed headlines. It is still earnings season, another chock full calendar. Wait, that's not right. Another calendar chock full of earnings results with some big consumer names this week. We might be transitioning to a sell the rally market from a buy the dip market. Watch your levels and watch for this transition. And keep in mind, political headlines will be hot all week. The S&P closed last week at 5,552 off the highs from Tuesday, above 5,700. This week, watch 5560 below and 5688 above. The U.S. 10-year Treasury bond, the benchmark, closed last week at 4.24%, near the highs for the week. Watch 4.14 below and 4.30 above. Remember, inverse relationship between bond prices and interest rates. Oil, West Texas Intermediate finished on the lows last Friday, $80.25 a barrel, and has traded lower since the open in Asia Sunday afternoon. The Houthi-Israeli exchange hasn't spooked markets yet. Watch 79.45 and 78.11 below, and watch 80.83 and 81.74 above. Gold finished last week at the lows of 2,402, well off the all-time highs for the week. Watch 2,347 and 2,302 below, and watch 2,417 and 2,438 above. All-time high levels up here. The U.S. dollar index closed on Friday at 104.38 at the highs for the week. Watch 104.11 and 103.75 below, and watch 105.02 above. Dollar index has been range-bound 104.10, 106 for some time now. Against the euro, the dollar rallied on the week, closing on Friday at 1.0877. Watch 108.18 and 107.43 below, and watch 109 and 109.47 above. Remember now, this is dollars, so as the exchange rate moves lower, that's dollar strength and euro weakness, and vice versa. Against the Japanese yen, the U.S. dollar finished on Friday at 157.49, mid-range for the week. Watch 156.10 and 154.87 below, and watch 157.89 and 158.34 above. Don't forget, let your winners run and cut your losers deliberately. Be disciplined. And let's not forget all our risk factors. Of course, headline data, Fed comments, presidential election comments, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, everybody else in the Middle East. Between the Houthis and Israel, things have really heated up in the past week. Keep an eye on that. China, Taiwan. We have turmoil in Bangladesh. The move left in France, the move left in the UK. Turmoil in Germany. So lots to pay attention to. All right, that's all I have for you today. Always try to buy American.